It was supposed to be just another afternoon at the Beckham Soccer Academy, nestled in the quieter edges of Los Angeles. The sky hung low with gray streaks, the kind of day that feels like it's holding its breath. David Beckham, owner and founder, had returned unannounced, slipping through the side entrance in a hoodie and baseball cap. He wasn't scheduled to be there. The official tryout week was underway, and Beckham had made a point of letting his staff run the process. He wanted to avoid the distraction of his presence. Let the coaches focus on talent, not on impressing a global icon. But something tugged at him that day. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was just coincidence. Whatever it was, he arrived just in time to witness a moment that would change everything. From the far side of the practice field, just beyond the main tryout area, Beckham noticed a small figure standing alone near the chain-link fence. A kid, maybe 11 or 12, was gripping a soccer ball so tightly it looked like his fingers might sink into the leather. Suddenly, with a burst of frustration, the boy screamed and hurled the ball across the asphalt toward the fence. The sound of it hitting metal rang out like a warning bell. Beckham froze. The boy slumped to the ground and buried his face in his arms, legs crossed, backpack tossed beside him like it didn't matter anymore. Beckham didn't move at first. He looked around. The coaches were busy, the parents were chatting, the kids were taking turns dribbling cones under a clipboard-wielding trainer. No one seemed to notice the boy. No one even looked up. That's what pulled Beckham in. He walked over slowly, quietly. As he got closer, he could see the boy's cheeks were wet. His hoodie was faded, his shoes were torn near the toes. The ball now lay in a gutter, spinning gently like it too had lost purpose. Beckham crouched down beside him. "Hey," he said softly. "Rough day." The boy didn't look up. He just nodded, wiping his face quickly with the sleeve of his oversized hoodie. "You play soccer?" Beckham asked, already knowing the answer. "Used to," the boy said. His voice was quiet but tense, like every word had to fight its way out. "Tried to try out today. They wouldn't let me." "Why not?" Beckham asked. The boy shrugged, but the kind of shrug that says a lot more than silence. "They said I wasn't on the list. I was supposed to be. My uncle registered me last week. He waited in line, paid the fee and everything. But Coach Rick said my name wasn't there. Told me to leave." Beckham frowned. He knew Rick. He hired him. Rick had coached in Florida for 10 years before coming west. Good resume. Nothing flashy but solid. Beckham stood and looked back toward the field. Coach Rick was barking at a teenager to keep his knees bent while passing. Everything looked normal. Too normal. "What's your name?" Beckham asked. "Miguel." "Well, Miguel," Beckham said, nodding. "Mind showing me a few moves? I've got 10 minutes to kill." Miguel blinked at him. "Are you serious?" Beckham smiled. "Dead serious." Miguel stood slowly, brushing the dust from his jeans. He walked over and retrieved his ball, cradling it like it mattered again. Beckham took a few steps back. "Go ahead. Show me what you've got." Miguel started juggling. Slowly at first, clumsy even. Then his rhythm kicked in, knee, foot, shoulder, spin. The ball became a living thing in his orbit. Beckham watched closely. There was flair, but more importantly, there was balance. Control. Hunger. When Miguel stopped, slightly out of breath, Beckham clapped quietly. "You've definitely got something, kid." Miguel looked surprised. "Thanks. Mind if I play against you?" The boy's eyes widened. "You want to play me?" "Sure. Let's do some one-on-one." They set up a few cones and took turns attacking. Miguel played without fear. Fast feet, sharp vision, instinctive movement. Beckham took it easy but tested him. The boy held his own. 10 minutes became 20. Beckham finally motioned for a break. They sat in the grass. "That was impressive," Beckham said. "But tell me again, Rick said you weren't on the list?" Miguel nodded. "My uncle paid cash. I heard Rick say something about needing more support for certain names. I don't know. All I know is he told me to go home." Something clicked. A phrase. A tone. Beckham remembered an offhand comment Rick had made weeks ago. "These tryouts are expensive. Some families show their commitment better than others." At the time it sounded like coach talk. Now it sounded like code. Beckham stood. "Thanks for playing with me, Miguel. You're really good." "You're not mad." Beckham looked down at him. "I'm furious, but not at you." Without another word, Beckham turned and walked toward the office at the edge of the complex. He didn't care that people started to notice him now. He didn't care that Coach Rick turned pale the moment their eyes met. Beckham wasn't the silent founder today. He was a father. Player. A man who had grown up in Council Flats and seen too many dreams crushed by people playing games off the pitch. Miguel watched him go, unsure of what had just happened. But for the first time all day, hope flickered behind his tired eyes. And on the far end of the fence, the ball Miguel had thrown lay still, but this time, not forgotten. The next morning, David Beckham arrived early. Not to be seen. Not as the star. He wore a plain gray hoodie, jeans, and a pair of old Adidas sneakers. No entourage. No security. Just him, and a mission forming like a storm behind his eyes. He parked on the side of the facility and entered through the staff gate using an old access code few remembered he still had. He didn't want anyone to know he was watching. Today he wasn't there to inspire. He was there to investigate. Tryouts continued. The front field was filled with the usual chaos. Kids nervously warming up, parents cheering with folding chairs and thermoses of coffee. Coaches blew whistles. Clipboards clicked. From a distance it looked like a machine that worked. Efficient. Professional. But Beckham had learned long ago, the cleanest facades often covered the dirtiest corners. He walked into the staff lounge, a small air-conditioned trailer near the back. Two assistant coaches were chatting near the coffee machine. "Morning," Beckham said casually, voice low. They looked up, startled. One of them, Coach Lisa, nodded respectfully. "Didn't know you were coming in today, David." "Neither did I," he replied, grabbing a bottled water from the fridge. "Just wanted to feel the place out. Unannounced visits keep people sharp." Lisa chuckled nervously. The other coach, a younger guy named Trevor, avoided eye contact. David lingered. "Hey, where's Rick?" "Front field," Lisa said quickly. "Running mid-tier drills." Beckham nodded, then turned to Trevor. "You've been here, what, 2 years?" "Yeah," Trevor mumbled. "You like it here?" Trevor hesitated. "It's fine." Something about his tone made Beckham pause. He stepped closer. "Something bothering you, Trevor?" Trevor glanced at Lisa, who subtly shook her head. Beckham caught it. "I need some air," Beckham said. "Take a walk with me?" Trevor looked trapped but nodded. They walked silently across the rear path that wrapped around the outer fields. Beckham let the quiet stretch out before he spoke again. "I saw a boy get turned away yesterday. Miguel. Said his name wasn't on the list. Said his uncle paid cash." Trevor's face twitched. "Yeah, I heard about that." "What did you hear exactly?" Trevor exhaled sharply. "Look, I'm not trying to start anything. I'm just trying to keep my job." Beckham stopped walking. "Trevor, if someone is turning kids away based on bribes, or shaking down families for cash to guarantee a spot, you're not keeping your job. You're keeping quiet in a system that punishes kids who can't afford to cheat." Trevor looked down. "Coach Rick, he's been doing it for a while. Not all the time. Just certain families. Tells them the academy is competitive, that if they want a better chance, they need to make a support donation. He even has a Venmo account under a fake name. Some pay cash. I've seen the envelopes. Usually under the table at the parents' tent. He splits it with a couple of the recruiters." Beckham felt the back of his neck burn. "How much are we talking?" Trevor shrugged. "A few hundred. Sometimes 1,000 if the family's desperate. One guy last week paid $2,000. Beckham clenched his jaw. He'd played in stadiums with 80,000 people screaming his name. He'd scored in World Cups. But this quiet betrayal happening under his nose, cut deeper than any loss on the pitch. "Does anyone else know?" Trevor nodded. "Maintenance guy, Andre. He's seen it too. He's cool. But he hates it." Beckham turned and started walking again. This time with purpose. "Thanks, Trevor. Don't mention this conversation to anyone." As he reached the parents' tent near field 3, he slowed his pace and scanned the area. Rick was there, smiling, slapping backs, handing out flyers. Then Beckham saw it. A man in a blazer discreetly passing an envelope across the cooler. Rick didn't even flinch. He slid it into his clipboard like it was paperwork. Beckham took out his phone and captured a few seconds of footage. He walked away before they could notice him. He felt sick, furious, betrayed. That evening, he held a private meeting in the facility's boardroom with the operations manager, HR lead, and legal advisor. He laid out everything: footage, testimony, patterns. The staff sat in stunned silence. "This academy was built to give every kid a chance," Beckham said, voice steady but cold. "If that's not happening, we're not just failing, we're lying." By the end of the meeting, Coach Rick and 2 recruiters were suspended pending termination. Internal investigation launched. Beckham insisted on full transparency. Refunds for families who had been pressured. Confidential interviews with affected kids. But it wasn't enough. He knew there were more like Miguel. Kids who left without yelling. Kids who simply gave up. He couldn't reach them all, but he could make a stand now. The next morning, Beckham walked onto the main field just as tryouts began. Microphone in hand, he stepped to the center circle. Parents and kids stopped. Whistles silenced. Heads turned. "I owe you all an apology," Beckham began. "Some of you were misled. Some of you were wronged. I built this place to lift kids up, not shut them out. And starting today, we're making some changes." He laid it out plainly: no more fees for tryouts. No more priority access. All selections based on skill and passion alone. A few parents applauded. Others looked confused. But in the crowd, Miguel stood quietly with a backpack slung over one shoulder, eyes wide, heart pounding. Beckham saw him and smiled. "Also," he added, "there's a boy here who reminded me what this game is really about. Miguel, get out here." Miguel froze. A volunteer nudged him forward. He walked out slowly, unsure if this was real. Beckham handed him a jersey. "You're officially part of the academy now. Welcome home." Miguel looked at the jersey, then up at Beckham. He didn't cry. He didn't speak. He just hugged him, fiercely, like someone clinging to the only truth they had left. And around them, for a moment, the entire field was still. But behind that silence was something new, something rising. Change. David Beckham stood alone in the boardroom of the Beckham Soccer Academy just before sunrise. The room was still, washed in the faint amber glow of the Los Angeles sky outside. The folder on the glass table in front of him contained everything: screenshots of money transfers, video evidence of cash handoffs, and written testimonies from multiple staff. The names on the documents were familiar: Coach Rick, Recruiter Dean, Coordinator Shelby. People he had trusted. This wasn't going to be a quiet cleanup. At 8 a.m. sharp, the disciplinary panel, Beckham, his operations manager, and legal counsel, convened. One by one, the accused were called in. No one pleaded innocence. At best, they offered rationalizations. "It's how things work in competitive clubs," said Shelby. "Parents want an edge," added Dean. "We didn't force anyone." Coach Rick leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "You wanted results. I delivered. Now you're blaming me for being effective." Beckham didn't raise his voice. "You betrayed children for envelopes." By noon, all three were terminated with cause. Official letters were issued. ID cards disabled. A security guard quietly escorted each one out the back gate. No headlines. No confrontation. Just cold, administrative finality. But Beckham wasn't satisfied with removal. He wanted to rebuild. He gathered the remaining staff on the main field that afternoon. Dozens of coaches, trainers, interns, and volunteers circled around midfield. Some looked nervous, others confused. Beckham stood at the center, eyes scanning every face. Some of you are angry. Some of you are relieved. And some of you knew what was happening and said nothing. Silence. "I'm not here to shame you. I'm here to tell you we're starting over." Effective immediately, this academy will adopt a new structure. No application fees, no recommended donations, no under-the-table deals. Tryouts are free. Spots are earned, not bought. A few people clapped. Others just exchanged glances. If that's not something you can support, you're free to leave. No one moved. "Good," Beckham said. "Because if I ever find out this happens again, I won't stop at firing. I'll name names." Then he smiled. "Now let's get back to why we're really here." Over the next week, the academy changed form. Beckham oversaw everything. He canceled a lucrative sponsorship deal with a private sports brand that had quietly encouraged exclusive packages for elite families. He held town hall meetings with parents to explain the new direction. Many cheered him. Some complained. "What about the families who supported this place from the beginning?" one parent asked. "We'll always appreciate support," Beckham said. "But support doesn't buy priority. That's the difference between an academy and a business." Miguel returned to the pitch on Friday. He wore the academy's navy and white jersey, slightly oversized, but his smile made it fit. The other kids welcomed him with high fives and cheers. He was no longer the boy who got turned away. He was now the kid Beckham picked. But Miguel didn't brag. He didn't speak much at all. He let his feet do the talking. That afternoon, the coaches set up a mixed-skill scrimmage. Miguel was placed in the intermediate squad, not because he lacked talent, but because he'd never trained formally. It didn't matter. In 20 minutes, he scored twice, assisted once, and dribbled past 3 defenders like they were orange cones. Beckham watched from the bleachers, arms crossed, barely blinking. Not because he was surprised, but because he wasn't. He'd known from that first juggle in the parking lot. This kid had it. After the scrimmage, Beckham called him over. "How'd it feel?" he asked. Miguel shrugged, trying to act casual. "Better than crying outside the gate." Beckham smiled. "You've earned your spot, Miguel. Not because of me. Because of you." Miguel looked down. "Why did you do all this?" Beckham paused. "Because once upon a time, I was the kid who got told I wasn't good enough. And if no one had taken a chance on me, I wouldn't be here. You reminded me why I built this place in the first place." Miguel nodded slowly. "Can I bring my cousin next week? He's good too. Just doesn't think he belongs." "Bring everyone," Beckham said. "They all belong. If they love the game, they belong." But not everyone welcomed the changes. That weekend, an anonymous letter appeared on the local sports forum accusing the academy of destroying its standards and turning into a charity. Some former donors pulled their backing. A few parents pulled their kids, citing loss of exclusivity. Beckham didn't flinch. In fact, he did the opposite. He went on local radio, then morning TV, then sat down for a live interview on ESPN where he said clearly, "If fairness costs us donors, then those aren't the donors we need. I'm not building a trophy farm. I'm building a place where a janitor's son can dream just as loud as a CEO's daughter." It went viral. The backlash faded. The applications tripled. Kids from downtown LA, San Bernardino, East Compton started lining up every morning, cleats in hand, eyes full of hope. One evening, Beckham returned to the field alone. It was empty. Lights off. The air carried that dry California cool. He stood at midfield looking around. Looked the same, but it felt different. Miguel's ball was at his feet. He gave it a gentle tap, then another. The rhythm returned. Not just of the game, but of purpose. He smiled to himself. The purge was painful, necessary. But now the field was clean, and it was finally ready for the dreamers. It was the final day of the newly redesigned tryout week, a Saturday. The Beckham Soccer Academy grounds looked and felt different now. Gone were the velvet ropes, the elite VIP check-ins, and the separate waiting lounges for premium applicants. Instead, there were food trucks, foldable chairs, free water stations, and rows upon rows of young kids lined up, boys and girls in all shapes and colors, some with brand new cleats, others with borrowed ones wrapped in duct tape. But they all came for one thing, a fair shot. David Beckham arrived early, not in secret this time. He walked openly through the crowd, shaking hands with volunteers, fist-bumping kids, posing for quick selfies. His presence no longer felt like a PR stunt. He wasn't the celebrity overseeing a machine, he was the heart of it. A young reporter approached him near the bleachers. "Mr. Beckham," she asked, "do you think you're changing the system?" Beckham smiled. "Not the whole system. Just our little piece of it. But sometimes a small piece is enough to start a bigger crack." He pointed toward the main field, where Miguel was now helping coach younger kids with warm-ups. "That's what this is about." Midday tryouts were paused for a special announcement. A new initiative was launched, One Field for All. The program guaranteed transportation stipends, free kits for underprivileged players, and mentorship from academy graduates. No kid would ever be turned away again for not having money. The crowd erupted into applause. Among them stood a woman in her 50s, tears in her eyes, Miguel's aunt. She didn't understand all the rules of soccer, but she understood this. Her nephew was finally being seen. And now hundreds more would be too. That afternoon, Miguel played in an exhibition match as part of the Rising Stars squad. Scouts from youth clubs across the country attended. Miguel didn't just shine, he lit the field up. Goals, assists, recovery plays. He played not to impress, but because he could. Because he was finally free to. After the game, Beckham caught him near the water station. "You've got scouts asking for your name," Beckham said. Miguel shrugged, a smile tugging at his lips. "I'm not ready for all that." "You're more ready than you think," Beckham said. "Just don't forget why you started." Miguel looked at the field. "Because I love it. And because you saw me." "No," Beckham corrected. "Because you didn't let being unseen stop you." As the sun began to set, Beckham returned to the same bench he sat on the first day he witnessed Miguel crying alone. The bench hadn't moved, but the world around it had changed. A father walked by with his daughter, maybe 9 years old, cleats muddy, face flushed from exertion. She turned and waved at Beckham, beaming. He waved back. Then came a line of children holding signed flyers and jerseys. They weren't asking for autographs. They were thanking him. Not just for being famous, but for standing up, for paying attention, for not forgetting the invisible ones. The story made headlines. From pay to play for all. Other academies reached out. Foundations offered support. One small act of fairness had sparked a bigger dialogue. But for Beckham, none of that compared to the feeling of seeing Miguel lead warm-ups, laugh with teammates, and finally belong. And as the stadium lights flicked on against the fading sky, Beckham stood once more at midfield. He closed his eyes. Listen, not to the noise, but to the heartbeat of the game. Fair, raw, real. The field was clean, and the dream was open.